Hey, what's up? What's up, everybody? This is your girl, Dr. Sherida Lovelace. Listen, I am so happy about today as we know that this is the day the Lord has made and we shall rejoice and be glad about it. Listen, I don't know what you've gone through today. I don't know what's happening in your life, but you are in the right place at the right time as we move forward in a triumphant hour. I want to welcome you to the Triumphant Show with Dr. Sherida Lovelace. I am your host, Dr. Sherida Lovelace, and we have an amazing show on tonight. I tell you, I have one of my friends that's coming on with me. I am so godly proud of her, of what God is doing in her life and how things have manifested and how she is handling things like a boss that we are, right? Yes. So listen, I want you to make sure that you begin to share and like this broadcast right now. You have just a few minutes to begin that process so we can get the show started and on the road. Again, welcome on this amazing night on tonight. Remember, this is the place where victory repeats itself. It's a platform where we know and believe that God is a God that always wins. He never fails. His mercies endureth forever. He's just an awesome God. He's a great God. He's a big God, and there is nothing too hard for him. And so again, you are in the right place at the right time. Even if you think you're just here to support, even if you think you're just here just to see what's going on, God has something amazing for you that will carry you into your week because we serve a triumphant God. Listen, we coined this year the year of the breaker. And for those of you that have been following me for the past 5 years, you know my background has changed, but I brought in the old background on tonight because I want you to know that this is a night where we just still believe that God is breaking through some walls. He's breaking through some mindsets. He's breaking through some things that we have been silencing about, different thoughts and opinions. And so for some reason, I was led to bring up the old backdrop so that you can be reminded that God is a God of breakthrough. We coined this year at the beginning of January of 2022, the year of the breaker. And we're just watching God and experiencing God of how he is just destroying yokes. He's just destroying bondages, and he's just letting people understand that they can be set free no matter what they're going through. And so tonight we're going to hear a little bit about how God is still moving in our lives. He's moving in everybody's life, even if you don't acknowledge it or know it. He's still God. This is just what he does. And great things are happening, but he's freeing us from so many repeated cycles. So I want you to remember that one, the year of the breaker. Tonight is breakthrough for so many of you and so many people that are going through. I was just telling my guest how today there has been so many different circumstances going on by 3 or 4 different families. And so the Lord is really just showing that the enemy's busy, but listen, God is busier. So he's just doing still a great work. And so tonight is really a special night for us because we just know that there's still a lot of things going on in the world that we want to be privy of. We don't want to put things under the rug. And we also know that we overcome by the word of our testimony, the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And so that's what this show is also about. Amen. Listen, we are based on 2 Corinthians 2 and 14. I love the NASB version. It's my favorite for this scripture, that is. And it says, but thanks be unto God who always leads us in triumph, victory in Christ, and manifests through us the sweet aroma of him in every place. And so I love that scripture. I love what it says. I love what it means. I love the fact that if we just keep our focus on him, I don't know if you where you come from, what you've been through, but I remember back in the day in the church, they would always say this scripture, look unto the hills which cometh your help, for your help cometh from the Lord, which meaning that if we remain focused on where we should be, where our victory is, we shall obtain it. And also others will be able to see that and be able to follow suit and being able to know that there's only one God who does a great and mighty work, who always wins. So super excited about that. Listen, before we bring our guest on, I want to give you just a couple of reminders of a few things. Shout out to our followers, international platform. God bless you. We pray that you are blessed on tonight. We thank you for being supporters in the other stations that follow us in the nations. God bless you. If you are not already following or subscribing, make sure you subscribe to our beginning growing YouTube channel at S Lovelace TV. For those that are watching now or later, God bless you. Be sure to leave a note, a comment at our station at S Lovelace TV as we continue to move in that station, in that place. throughout the rest of this year. Listen, if you're not already, follow me on Instagram. This is just one of the pages we have on Instagram at Sherida Lovelace. I'm making it easy. I'm just using my name, right? Follow me on Instagram. Of course, we share some things that we don't always share here on Facebook. And it's also another way to get information about how we're moving in the ministry, for guests, some other stuff, just whatever it is. So make sure you are following us there. And also at SL Media Ministry. We don't have that down, but SL Media Ministry on Instagram, where you'll see older shows, older guests that have come through not only the Triumphant show, but different parts of the media aspect throughout the last 4 or 5 years. And also remember, if you want to be a guest on the show, or you know someone that has a Triumphant story, make sure you have them send me an email, or you can, or direct message me at Sherida Lovelace Ministries at gmail.com. Again, it's on your screen at Sherida Lovelace Ministries at gmail.com. Listen, you could be an author, an artist. You have a triumphant story. We are in a small season. Every now and then we do co-hosting. And so we bring in a special co-host. And so if you want to be a part of that as well, through some of the pockets within our season, make sure you send an email and express your interest. All right. Listen, again, tonight, and this is the place where victory repeats itself. So I'm excited to share with you about, again, my amazing guest on tonight. I want to welcome everybody to the show. So I'm just going to read a little bit about her as we move forward. And I'm going to tell you, before I even go into that, it was amazing because I really try to move according to what the Lord shows me. And he had mentioned to me her name. Just out the blue, hadn't talked to my friend in so long. And I was like, Lord, why are you sending me Jacqui's name? And I was like, okay, something going on. What's happening? I won't go through the whole details, but it prompted me to reach out to her and just kind of see what was happening. And sure enough, there was a reason. And so now, after conversation, without further ado, we have brought her onto the show to share what's been going on in her life, how she's handled it, and how she's being a blessing to so many people, both near and far, communities, cities, etc. And we want to be a source of support and help for her as well in this endeavor, but also to be able to share what's going on as God continues to enlarge her territory. So listen, y'all, I have my homegirl from the West Coast here. She is here in the A in Atlanta, Georgia, Jacqui Robinson. Let me tell you just a little bit about her, and then we're going to bring her on, and we're going to go into the interview, okay? Jacqui Robinson, she's been in law enforcement over 25 years of experience. She has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, a master's in criminal justice, specializing in critical incident management, and pursuing a second master's in forensic psychology. I'm excited to hear a little bit about how this plays a role and what's going on tonight. Mother of 5 amazing children. I remember when the first one was a little bitty baby. So excited about the amazing things the kids are doing. A grandmother of 1 whom she calls Munchkins. Munchkins. I wanted to get that in. But listen, in 2019, mental health entered into her life, and it entered in through her daughter, her oldest daughter. We're going to talk about that tonight. Listen, just even stopping on that, if you know of somebody that might be dealing with this, now, whether they're an adult, they have children going through this, you need to send them this show right now as we begin this conversation. But in the midst of this, when this began to happen in her life in 2019, there were just feelings. We're going to talk about that because feelings of being overwhelmed, frustrated, alone, trying to get the proper treatment that was taking place with her. And so after many failed attempts to get her daughter in long-term care, Jacqui realized she could not be the only one going through this situation. Let me tell you, there's so many of us that think that we are by ourselves, but we are not. And it takes a voice, just like what Jacqui is doing, to be reminded that there's other people that are going through. And listen, we're going to do something about it. And that's just the voice I hear in my spirit of how Jacqui moves. And so she also realized that we needed more help to fix the broken mental health system in the state of Georgia. We're going to talk a little bit about that because what did the system do? What didn't it do? But as a result, she has a podcast that she's founded called Mission for Mental Health. And it's amazing because people are able to share their journey. Listen, if this is you, this is something you can connect with. But people are able to share their journey. And I love the slogan, which says, healing is in the conversation. And the goal and the hope is to help others feel supported and free after being a guest on this show that she has founded and has begun, or even just by viewing. Rod's going to dive a little bit deep into her nonprofit that she is hoping to get established and move forward in this same arena. So, everybody, Triumphant Family Chat Ministry. Without further ado, I'm going to bring on my friend Jacqui Robinson. Here we go. Hey, Jacqui.
Hey
Welcome.
girl, hey, what's up?
Yay.
What's up?
Listen,
Girl,
so
that
happy.
was amazing.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. I
That
am
was
happy you're here. You look amazing.
thank you, you
I'm
too.
so glad that we connected. I'm so excited about how things are happening in your life.
Absolutely.
From even having the Zoom Mary Kay little pamper parties,
Yes,
and
yes, and I
beyond. And
still sell
so
it too. Still selling the
yeah.
Mary Kay.
Listen, y'all, she still sells Mary Kay. So if you need to get the hookup, you know who to go to.
Yep, yep.
Matter of fact, I probably need to get some more cleanser for the skin. So we'll
I
talk
got you.
about that later. But listen, everybody, I'm so happy to have you, Jacqui. And I want to talk a little bit about everything. But let's start in the beginning. And so, of course, we know you grew up in California. We
Yes,
both are from
ma'am.
the West Coast, the
West
West Side.
side, west
Um,
side.
and so we have been connected through the college organizations.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to watch how I speak it and say my
I
words. So I don't offend
understand.
nobody.
Hmm.
College organizations, we have moved in friendship. We have seen a lot and experienced a lot. And then I think you left for Georgia before I did. Yes,
I came in
before I did.
96, second week of
Okay, and then
November.
I came a couple of years after that, and
Hmm.
so it's amazing how everybody, you just never know how God will move you and move you back into full circle with people that you knew years
Years
ago. You
ago.
just never
Yes,
know. Yeah,
ma'am.
so it's awesome to see how what God is doing in your life. So listen, went through school, etc. We both majored in criminal justice. We both have
Yep.
been in that arena, even here in Georgia.
Hmm.
And so things happen. But let's start with that time in the season between California and Georgia, right before 2019. Let's talk about that a little bit. What were the things that you were doing? Did you see any signs of anything's going on in your life or the life of family? Parents, anything that would indicate to you that you may encounter what you did in 2019. And I don't want to go to 2019 yet, but share a little bit with everybody about that
So,
first.
so really, I didn't know a whole lot about mental health, of course, coming to Georgia. Not really much. I remember when I was a little girl going through some things with my mom, but I didn't really know what that was at that time. She had a little bout of depression. Don't know what caused it, don't know much about it, but I do remember her going through that. But what happened was when I started my law enforcement career, that's when I really seen what mental health was, what it looked like. Started off in a prison system. So, of course, I started seeing women. I worked in a women's prison and started seeing mental health in the facility, because they separated those inmates from the other inmates, right? So
Yeah,
I knew a little bit about it, but not a whole lot, but knew what it was. Just knew these inmates over here need a little bit more attention than the inmates on the other side. And then
right.
moving through my career. So after I left the prison, I started working in the city jails. And so working in the city jails, you start seeing it more frequently because you're dealing with people right off the street. So fresh off of whatever. So they may, alcohol dependency, drug dependency, things like that. So you knew that was a part of some form of mental health. But once again, they were treated, excuse me, they were treated a little different than the other inmates. And I used to love to work in those units too. I always worked in one of those mental health crisis units. I liked working in
Yeah,
those units. Then moving on to my policing career, that's when I
yeah,
really, really saw that mental health was exists, because we were called to these people. So what happened was, what I noticed when I moved here in 96, there were tons of facilities open for mental health. There were state funded facilities all over the place, Milledgeville, all in the, in Atlanta area. And for some reason they just shut down. But you have to remember, the people with mental illness didn't disappear. They're
that's
still
right.
there, and they
Yeah.
left them there for the police to deal with. And what we did was, we weren't educated on mental health at that time. All we
Mm,
knew is people were calling us to these locations and wanting us to remove this individual. So we will remove this individual, and where would we take them? Jail. If
yeah.
we couldn't take them to, Grady or a mental health facility another facility that our county used.
Right.
The only other option was jail, and they're in jail for things like drunk in public, disorderly conduct, and just a
Right.
bunch of things. But they actually had mental illness that wasn't being addressed, and jail is not a rehabilitation facility for mental health. So that's how
That's
I
right.
really learned about it, because I saw it so much at work. Like, I would see people walking up and down the road talking to
Yeah.
themselves and pulling their clothes off, and or if you stop and have a conversation with them, it is out of the ordinary. Girl, they'll say some of
Yeah.
everything in it, everything to you, seeing spaceships all over Bankhead, and you like,
Right.
what?
Right.
They just saying all kind of craziness, but it's mental health, but there was nothing for it. So I've been exposed to it for many years, but I never saw it coming directly at me.
Mm. Amazing, amazing family. Listen, I love what you're sharing with us right now. We're talking to my homegirl, my friend from the West Coast. That's how I'm gonna identify her tonight. Jacqui Robinson. She is sharing with us just kind of the beginning story of how mental health has been a part of her career before. An incident hit her on her doorstep in 2019. Want to shout out to everyone who's listening and watching on tonight. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Maggie. Hey, Dr. Morris. And those of you that I can't really see, that I see that you're watching, God bless you all for joining the show tonight. Feel free to talk into the chat and ask questions, etc., as we continue to move in the show. So listen, Jacqui, it's amazing when I hear you talk about the programming and everything that was, I'm going to say, not existent in the law enforcement arena for so long. Actually being a parole officer for 10 years and seeing nothing going on, or they're giving uh, the responsibility to officers to try
Right,
to teach a cognitive skill or behavioral class
right.
based off a curriculum that needed to be updated, and expecting the inmates to come back, or expecting the releasees to be able to quick fix them.
Function
And
like
then
you're
they go
supposed to,
through.
right?
Right. And then they go through, if they don't get it, they go and reoffend, then it's a whole big situation.
Correct,
And then their parole gets terminated, and it's just a whole
correct.
big drama and mess. And so I'm glad that you shared that. And family, I hope you're catching this, because we experienced that. Oh, one of my homies, what's up, Officer Clyde Webley?
What's
I see you
up?
on there.
Woo-hoo.
Hi, Destiny. I see you. God bless you all. And so again, working in law enforcement, I mean, you are on target on it. And I know some of you all that have been in that as well, you all can chime in on this as well. The services were not that strong. The recidivism rate continued to go. And it was always an issue of funding that we were given, in terms of doing this or that, or we're having to do extra on our
Right,
thing. And the fact that I love how you shared how even when you were a police officer and you were getting these calls to go and attend to those that were in the streets, and you knew that they had mental health issues, but it was more so of you're either going to arrest them, they're just going to go to jail, sit and get back out, or see if they can calm down and leave them there on the streets. This becomes an issue for the community and the society because we're
absolutely,
not doing this. And so then
absolutely.
2019 comes, and here you go, something hits your door, knock, knock, knock.
Girl, knock,
Tell
knock,
us what
knock, knock, knock,
happened.
like boom, boom,
Boom,
boom.
like bulldozer. Tell us what happened in 2019, because here you've gotten this experience. It's almost a setup to me, by God. But you get this experience, and then all of a sudden it hits your door. Tell us what happened.
Correct. So I have 5 kids, like you mentioned, and one of my children, smart is like the smartest kid, the one who can just read something and retain it. Never had to
Yeah.
study, none of that. We just
Right,
expected her to just go off and do great things because she was so smart. And so in
right.
2019, she's going off to college. Well, actually, she went in 2018, but in 2019 is when we really started to notice, okay, something is off. So she goes off to college, and she's only there for about 3 weeks. And she's starting to call home, and she calls me, and she calls her dad, and she's
Okay.
saying things like, the Christians upstairs are stomping on the floor. I need a gun because my roommate's trying to kill me. They're hiding under my bed. My psychology teacher told me that the FBI can tap your phone. So I knew something was not right. And
Wow.
so her dad went to go pick her up from school. I met him, and we took her to the hospital. And when we took her to the hospital, they did what's called a 1013. So a 1013 in the state of Georgia is a 48 to 72-hour hold for evaluation, right? So some
Right.
states they call it the Baker Act. I think they call it a 1058, I think in California. But anyway, in
Okay.
Georgia, we call it 1013. And so when we started with that, they took her to the psychiatric hospital and they evaluated her and they diagnosed her with bipolar disorder. And I knew that bipolar was, you can be treated, you can function with bipolar if you catch it early. But if you
Okay.
let it go, it can manifest into some other things that you may not come back from. Now,
Wow.
her dad, on the other hand, was a little, you know, no, she just, he comes from an extremely, when I tell you, side note, I always told his mother that if something happened to me on my job as a police officer, I want her to come to the hospital to pray over me,
Come on
because
now.
his family is
Yes.
a praying and fasting family. I'm talking about come to the altar, get on your knees and
Yeah.
pray until something happens.
Right.
That's his family.
Right.
That's
That's
his
good.
family. And so, he felt, she just needs to come to church. She needs to get back in church. He raised his kid. He raised these
Mm,
kids. We're divorced. He raised those kids in church. We have, a bunch of them. He raised the kids in church. They know the word. And his thing was they need to come back. She needs to come back to church and get, prayer. My thing
mm,
was, okay, I agree. I don't have an issue with prayer or anything like that. I'm not knocking prayer because I
mm.
know prayer works. I watched your family pray somebody back to life, which was his grandma. So I
Come
know
on.
it works, right? But
Right.
she needs a little bit more. She needs a little bit more. So
Mm-hmm.
when
Mm-hmm.
she came home, she kind of went back to her regular behavior. She went back to she went
Mm.
back to just some people smoke marijuana. I personally don't do it.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
yeah, and it can be a trigger. The THC it levels in that marijuana
Yeah.
is not for her, and she
Sure.
just would not stop. So in 2019, she kept her behavior was becoming more and more erratic. So
Wow.
she would do things like, "I'm moving to Miami," and I'm like, "Bae," we call her Bae. Bae, you don't have a job in Miami. Like, how are you just gonna just pack up and move to Miami? She would
Right.
pack up her belongings, take off to Miami, no job, no money, nowhere to live, and just live out on the streets and just, I
Mm.
have a home. God bless me with a beautiful home. God
Wow.
bless her father with a beautiful home. We have several
Wow.
bedrooms in our house.
Yeah.
She does not have to be homeless.
Yeah.
Her mental illness is telling her that she can go out to Miami. So what my daughter has is bipolar 1 with severe psychosis, and she's on the mania side. She is on the depressive side as well, but it's more prominent on the mania side. So the mania side causes you to do things that are so irrational, erratic, spontaneous, things that none of us would do. None of us
Wow.
in our right mind would do. Her because she is refused to accept treatment, she has been hospitalized 12 times, if not more, within the last
Wow.
2 years. um it's been really difficult on us. Girl, I'm trying not to bust out on these tears on you
It's
because you
okay.
know, girl, I got that. I put some
Come
makeup on
on.
for y'all.
Right.
I'm
We
trying
got
to
the
be cute for
lashes
y'all
on,
today.
right?
I'm
Come
trying not to
on.
let it come off.
It's
But
okay.
I'm very open and I'm very
Yeah.
transparent with people. And
Awesome.
whatever
Yes.
your guests want to ask, you can ask and I'll answer it.
Yeah.
Um, but what I saw and what I want your guests to recognize is we watched her decline. She now
Mm.
has schizophrenia. So we watched her decline from the smartest, most intelligent person you ever could meet at 19
Mm, mm, mm.
to at 24 years old to a girl who cannot maintain a menstrual cycle, cannot maintain a job, cannot maintain hair, cannot maintain hygiene, cannot manage money, cannot communicate.
Wow.
Every communication is in a delusional state. It makes Absolutely no sense. Her dad
Wow.
has gone to Miami at least 6, 7 times to retrieve his daughter to bring her home, to get her
Oh my
help.
God.
And every time she just takes off. I don't know what it is about Miami. Maybe because it doesn't get cold. I don't know. But she
Hmm.
lives on the streets. She begs. She prostitutes. She does any and everything she can for $1. This is a girl who's, when I say gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. But
Yeah.
Sherida, we prayed and prayed and prayed that nothing would happen to this girl. But we never prayed that she wouldn't do something to someone else. And so when you're ready for me to share that story, you let
Well,
me
okay, hold that thought. Jesus, Jesus. First of all, thank you so much for your openness, your transparency, and honesty. Because we believe, as you know, on your platform and this platform, we're here to help people, to help not just us, but even those that hear and listen. And I'm just thankful that God has had you in the position in your career, and to also be able to share the experience so that we know the people watching know we're dealing with something that's someone who's genuine, authentic. She's not telling you about the book knowledge. She's telling you it is
nope.
what it is. This is
That's
what
what it
happened.
is.
I'm in it. Let me tell you what goes on in it. And the reason why I'm glad you're being transparent with this is because somebody tonight or some night needs to make sure they understand that they are not alone. And the slogan for your show that says healing is in the conversation, healing is in the conversation. We've got to speak up about it because so many of us need help in understanding
Yeah,
triggers and signs and what happens when you have a child that you said is beautiful, was doing awesome in school, all these amazing things that even we hope for our children, and then bam, something happens and you're like, well, what in the world? What did I do something? Did what did they,
absolutely.
where are they? And so I'm glad you're saying that. And family, if you're listening in the chat, please feel free again to put your comments in the chat. And thank you, Mama Lovelace. Yes, we are all in tears. I agree with you because I'm misty. You can't see it behind these glasses, and we our hearts cry out for this because this is something we as a community need to understand and come together on. So I
Absolutely.
want to share that before you go any further. When these things were happening, did it cause you to think back to things that you saw while you were working or have been working in law enforcement prior to 2019? Did you see any red flags or triggers during that time with your daughter when it happened? Did you see like, was there any aha moments or anything?
So I recognized it. I
Okay.
knew. I just didn't know what the diagnosis was going to be, but I
Right.
knew it was
Gotcha.
something. I absolutely knew because I've seen it several times. And to be honest, Sharita, me and her dad,
Yeah.
we called the police on her. Like we
Yeah.
would,
Come on,
it
mama.
we would drive
Yeah.
to DeKalb County because we know that county has a mobile crisis unit.
Yeah.
We know that county has a mobile crisis unit. And a
Okay. To
mobile
the cat.
crisis unit is the one where the officer and the nurse ride together and respond
Right.
out to mental health calls. They need more of these, not just one per
Yeah.
shift, or they really need them more because
Right.
it's a different type of response when you call for help. We would
Yeah.
drive to DeKalb County and call the police. And it's an officer. I know everybody knows I work for DeKalb. So
Right.
it's an officer I know. Some people already knew that I had because I was sharing a little bit on social media. So some
Yeah.
people kind of knew, oh, that's Jackie's daughter. Or they seen her and they're like, oh, I've
Wow.
seen her. That's Jackie's daughter.
Wow.
And so I knew exactly what it was. It took a minute for her dad to get on board, but when he started
Yeah.
seeing we are putting her in the hospital way more
Yeah.
than normal. This
Yeah.
is this
Yeah.
is this is something serious. And he started educating himself as well. So he started
Yeah.
accepting, yes, she needs to come to church, but she also needs some medication and some therapy. She needs
Yeah.
some treatment. So yes,
Yeah.
I did see the things that I saw back when I was, keep in mind, I ain't been on the road in many, many, many moons.
Right. Right.
I frequent that, my whole career, most of my career has
Yeah.
been in that same jurisdiction. So I've
Yeah.
seen it all over. And so when I
Yeah.
seen it in my daughter, I've seen it all up and down County Road, I've seen all up and down in Glenwood.
Yes.
It's not clear. So we
Yeah.
just gonna be honest and I'm just gonna tell it.
Right.
Yes, I've
It's
seen it.
100.
And when I
Yep.
saw it in my daughter and how she's behaving like some of these people that we're dealing with, we're
Yep.
actually bringing in for crime, right?
Yeah.
We're bringing them
Mm-hmm.
in. I'm seeing the same thing in my daughter. I just didn't know what the diagnosis was at that time, if you
Right.
understand what I'm saying. I knew
Sure.
it. I
Yeah.
knew it because I've been exposed to it for a long time, but I just
Yeah.
didn't know what to call it. I didn't know
Right.
what it was. But now I know it is
Right.
bipolar and
Yeah.
schizophrenia. That is my daughter's diagnosis. And it's so funny now when I take the same route to work every day. I see
Right.
these same people, and now I'm looking at people on the street different. I'm
Right.
looking at people on the street different
Look at that.
because sometimes I used to look at homeless people. They homeless. I
Yeah.
feel bad, but okay. Oh, they're out there ripping their clothes off. They're walking up
Yeah.
and down the street talking to themselves, having full-fledged conversations. They're
Yeah.
sleeping outside at the bus stop with blankets,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
I have a different outlook now.
Yeah. Look at
Different,
that. Yeah.
different,
Bless your heart. Bless your
different.
heart. And this is a good time to stop. And I'm so grateful. Let me say this before we get into part two of what you're dealing with the situation now. Family, I need you to hold tight with us and listen, because to me it is so important that we understand that some of us deal with mental health issues and we don't even want to acknowledge it, or we don't want to pay attention to it, or we don't want to educate ourselves on it, or we feel like, how do I go about dealing with this? And Jay, I love you. Hey, my family, how are you? I love what you said, in terms of it's a great deal of spiritual, because we're talking about that, because yes, the church has to be involved and understand, recognize what spirit is in operation, and continue to be there to bring forth healing and deliverance. And I actually attend a healing and deliverance church. I love that. And I also like the fact that God puts people in position with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding and skill in the flesh to work through that. And so our prayer is that the church and the community can come together in some kind of way where the Spirit of God can work through these practitioners. The Spirit of God can work through these hospitals. The Spirit of God can work through the law enforcement officers to bring about a change, to establish authority, to take control of what is happening here on earth with our children, with those who have mental health issues, with those that are walking and people are still like, oh, they stupid, or what's so wrong. There's something wrong, and we have to stop and watch and listen and figure it out and wonder. And listen, I heard somebody say one time, and Jacqui, I want you to go into the next part after this. They said, we all don't have to be a mental health doctor. We all don't have to have that degree. But when we recognize it and someone brings something to our attention, even if it's suicide or depression or whatever, we got to
Absolutely.
stop and listen. We don't have to diagnose it. Stop and listen. That's our first step, and we'll move in from there. And I know Jacqui has more that she tools and everything dealing with this situation she can share with us. But that's really on my heart, that we all kind of come and understand that this is bigger than just ignoring it, or bigger than us just saying, oh, it's okay. No, there's some things that have to be stopped, and it's going to take some work. And so I'm proud of the work that Jacqui is doing to bring attention and awareness to it, and to provide a platform where people feel comfortable and free, that they're not alone, and that they can be supported, gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to be able to deliver services so that we can help our people and our families. Listen, if you
Absolutely.
serve in church, you got to recognize it. If you serve in law enforcement, you got to recognize it. If you in the industry, you got to recognize it. So I thank you for that. And so, Jacqui, after you all went through all of this, something else happened. What's that next level of issue with this situation with your daughter that you've dealt with? Share with us about that.
So, Memorial Memorial Day weekend, the week prior. So my daughter was in Peachford in February of this year. She comes
Yeah.
out and she takes off and goes to Miami. She tells her dad she's going to the store in his car. She takes his car and drives to Miami. That's a long way to go to the store, right? For whatever you're trying to get.
That's a lot of
She takes
hours.
his car and she goes to Miami. And
Okay.
so we know that she's down there because we haven't heard from her. And so
Okay.
periodically she'll find a phone, get a phone, some kind of way she'll call. Then she called. And we were giving her money because she kept saying she wanted to come home, and we were gonna help her get up. She went out there to try out for the Miami Dolphin cheerleaders,
Okay.
and to enroll in school, and to all this stuff that don't make no sense. But that's what she went to go do.
Okay.
So we thought that she was trying to get back home, and instead of going north, she ended up going south, and she ended up in Key Largo. So if anybody's familiar with Florida, that is the tip of Florida, and she was out there trying to sell her dad's car. So because she was out there, and because I am listed as her emergency contact, I'm so sorry about that. It's
I hear the
it's
puppy.
storming over here.
It's coming over
Um, as soon as the officer called me, you know, previous privilege sometimes when you work in law enforcement,
here.
officer called and started asking, hey, is there something going on with her? She seems, she seems a little off. She's out here trying to sell her dad's car. I explained to him, yes, that she has mental health. Now, when we were going through this treatment with her for these past 5 years,
Yeah.
someone told us that we needed to get guardianship of her. That was really hard to do because she is an adult, but we were
Ah,
able to. Oh yes, you heard Britney Spears situation where her parents had guardian and conservatorship. So
yes.
her father and I have guardianship of her. So it's
Okay.
like she's an adult, but she's an adult who requires a guardian, which is me and
Right.
her dad. So
Okay.
I explained to him what was going on, the officer in Florida, in Marathon, Florida, and they took her. They called it a Baker's Act. So that's the same as the 1013 here in Georgia, and they took her to the hospital, but they kept calling and saying, hey, we need somebody to come and get her because we can only keep her for a couple of days and we don't want to release her on the street, but we will.
Right.
Her dad flies to Miami. He takes a 2 hour and a half shuttle down to Key West, Key Largo. He goes and picks up his car. He goes to pick her up, and as she comes out the hospital, she takes off running. So they told
Mm,
us if she runs to call the police. So he calls the police. The facility calls the police. They bring her back, and the officer talks to her, and the officer is saying, hey, she doesn't have to. We can't force her to go with you if she's not suicidal or homicidal or anything like that, which is very common in law enforcement. They don't really know all the mental health laws on what they can and cannot do with a person in crisis.
wow.
The typical line is they're not suicidal, they're not homicidal, so we're going to just, we can't force them to go into a facility, and we can't force her to go with you because she's an adult, even though we have guardianship. But
Guardianship.
he is able to convince her to get in the car, and he acts
Okay.
as if he's going to follow them out of Key West or Key Largo. I think it's Key West. So
Okay.
the officer is following him, and as soon as the officer turns, it's right before he hits the turnpike to come out of Key West, she jumps out the car.
Oh my God.
So she takes off. He goes back and he's looking for her for hours. He cannot find her. And so he comes back to Georgia. So
Mm,
she finds her way to Miami. She ends up in Miami. Don't know how she got there. But like I said before, it's something about that Miami. But she ends up back in Miami. And she is, of course, out on the street. And we are funding her Miami-ness because we're afraid. We're scared. And we're
sure.
always praying, God, please don't let anything happen to her. God, please protect her.
Yeah.
God, please cover her. God, please. But we never expected her to do something to someone else. We didn't pray for that. We didn't even think to pray for that. We just were praying that nobody would do anything to her. So moving towards the Memorial Weekend, or right before the Memorial Weekend, she is walking down the street. And I can share this because this is what I got off the news. I don't know anything else. She is
Okay.
walking down the street. She's walking by this record service. This guy left his car running. She went and jumped in his car. He tried to stop her, and he was pulling on the driver's side door handle of the car. He slipped and fell. She ran him over, and he died from his injuries. So she took off, and she went to. Now keep in mind, she's in a clear state of psychosis. She has adopted a new name. Her name is Annabelle Christian, is her new name. um I'll give you this little bit right here. Her psychosis tells her that her dad and I are not her parents. Her psychosis tells her that she is from Austin, Texas, that the house that she was living in was set on fire. Her dad and I kidnapped her and raised her as our own child, which I got the stretch marks, y'all, to show that she mine.
Right.
But anyway, she takes this guy's car, runs him over, and he dies from his injuries. The next day, she was trying to sell his car at a car lot or something like that,
Okay.
and the police were called, and they took her in custody, and they charged her with second-degree murder, carjacking, and false name, date of birth. And like I said, the name that she uses is Annabelle. We have notebooks. We have books of where she has changed her name, or she's having conversations with herself where she's written in journals and notebooks, calling herself Abigail and Annabelle. She has these different personalities. So for that week, we couldn't find her. We didn't know where she was. And so her dad looked in the jail and saw that in Miami-Dade County Jail, she was arrested for second-degree murder, carjacking, and false name. And it just broke us. It just broke because, like I said, we prayed and prayed and prayed for God to protect her, but we never thought that she would harm anybody.
Somebody else.
Yeah, and so that's what we're dealing with now.
Bless your heart. I'm trying not to cry over here.
I know you got lashes on.
They coming off today, baby.
It's really
You
it's
know,
hard.
yeah, I can I feel the heaviness of that. And family, I just want you to just be supportive, even in the chat as we talk about this. You know, because I have some other questions I want to pull out of Jacqui because I want to make sure that we help somebody tonight with what they're dealing with and going on. So she's presently incarcerated as a result of all this. Jacqui, am I correct with saying
Correct.
that?
Yeah.
Okay,
No
and
bond, nothing. Yeah, no, nothing.
what right now because she's incarcerated, um mental health wise, are you seeing them doing anything in the jail right now with her in reference to her situation?
Well, she is on a mental health floor.
Okay.
However, inmates in the county jail can refuse medication. So they can refuse treatment. So she's not receiving any treatment. I've only talked to her twice since she's been there because there's money on the book. She just doesn't call. Um, and so we don't know what she's doing in there. But from the conversation, I could tell she's clearly not taking medication. I just roll with whatever she's saying. I just go with
Yeah.
it. And she only
Right.
talks for a couple minutes, and that's because she chooses to,
Right.
or her mental illness is choosing her, to, not really deal with us like that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
they don't have to. They don't force medicate in jail.
Oh, right, right. Okay. Now, how you have other children and an awesome grandchild? How are they handling knowing that they have a sister in this situation? Have you concealed some of the information from them? I want to help somebody listening or watching, whether tonight, whether you're across the waters in the nation, you might be going through something similar or see some signs of what you've heard from Jacqui on tonight. How are your kids handling this, Jacqui?
So when I started the podcast, my first podcast, I brought my kids on just to let
Uh,
them talk and share and get out whatever they wanted to get out.
I love it.
I did it
Mhm.
cold. I didn't ask them any questions. I asked them if they wanted to do it first. They did say yes, except for the youngest one, the 14-year
Yeah,
old did not want to do it. But the other ones, they feel like me, shocked,
yeah.
hurt,
Okay. Yeah,
broken.
yeah,
Um, they had so many expectations for her.
yeah. Sure. Yeah, understandable.
They had a lot of
Jesus.
expectations for her, and it didn't pan out the way they thought. No
Sure.
one saw this coming. But what
Yeah,
I will share is that they knew at first they thought she was just bad. She's just playing. She's just being difficult, being rebellious.
yeah,
Rebellious, that's the word. She's just being rebellious.
yeah,
But when they started seeing all the stuff that her dad and I were going through with her, they started to understand, okay, something really is wrong. Something is really going on.
yeah,
Something's really wrong. And it just it just tore them up. But
yeah,
right now, because they all have the life, they all have a lot going on for themselves.
Yeah.
So yes, they care about their sister. Yes, they love their sister. Yes, they want
Yeah.
they all want, they're all hoping that through this situation she can finally receive the treatment she should have received a long
Right.
time ago. They
Yeah.
are
That's
living their lives. And like I told them, I don't care what's going on with you,
yeah.
whatever you want to talk about or whatever,
Mm.
don't use India's situation
Mm.
to not communicate with me. I don't care what's going on. This thing with India, this is going to go on for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So don't not speak to me or communicate with me because you're trying to protect me or your dad or whatever. Still deal with me. So it did weigh heavy on them initially. It broke everybody.
Sure.
It broke everybody. You're talking about a mother who's been in law enforcement since 1997.
Right.
I can
Right.
fix anything.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
tell you
Yeah.
I can fix
Right.
anything when it comes to my kids, I call myself Mama Bear. I call them the Cubs. I can
Right.
fix anything. But a
Yeah.
therapist told me one time, she said, since when y'all go to these when you go to a Christian therapist who knows the word, this is what
Yeah.
you get. She said, Jacqui, one day God is going to put you in a position where you cannot move at all
Mm.
because your
Mm.
kids don't know how to call on the Lord. They know how to call on their mama. And you, my dear,
Woo!
are in the way. You, my dear, are in the way.
That silences
God
me.
cannot do his work because you, Miss Fixer, are
Mm.
in the way. And what's going to happen is he's going to put you in a position where you are incapacitated, where you cannot move,
Mm.
where you cannot do anything because your kids
Mm.
got to learn how to call on the Lord.
Yeah. Oh
And
my
guess
God.
what happened? Mama Bear was incapacitated. Mama Bear was broke. She was crying. She couldn't function. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't eat. She couldn't do anything
Wow.
but allow her kids, all of them,
Mm.
to call on the Lord. The
Yeah.
little one over there reading
Yeah.
scripture. Mom, I'm reading. I downloaded the Bible app and I'm reading Luke, the book of Luke. Did you know
Right.
I had? So what happened was God had to use my daughter to get
Yes.
all of us,
Mm. Mm.
move
Mm.
all of us,
That's a word right there.
to
Yeah.
move all of us, and that is exactly what has happened.
Yeah.
Um, Only God can fix her situation. And my
Yeah.
daughter, her father made sure them kids know how to call on the Lord when they need to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I
Even
love.
the oldest one is not his, and the youngest one
Yeah.
is not his, but them three in the middle are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all of those kids know how to call on the Lord when they need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, it affected them, but
Yeah.
it's moving in a it's moving.
Okay.
It's
Right.
moving.
It's doing what it's supposed to do. Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love that. And family, those of you that are listening and watching tonight, I'm just so excited about what you're hearing. I pray that you're grabbing something, a hold of what we are hearing on tonight, a nugget, and just hearing what Jacqui's talking about. Jacqui, I want you to share because all of this led into your podcast, and you
Absolutely.
also are in progress of getting a nonprofit going. Share with us
Absolutely.
about how they can see and watch the broadcast, just a little bit of nugget about the broadcast that you have now founded. After all this has happened, y'all, it's amazing how God will birth a purpose out of pain. I know we hear that all the time, but he really does. I'm a witness to it. I'm a witness to authoring a book out of pain. God will do what he has to do. And
Yes.
I truly believe that they are chosen vessels. And some of us that remain surrendered to a life where we want things to be right. We care about people. God will use us in those ways that we can deliver the message so that there's people like Jacqui on the show tonight, that we can go to that have had an actual real situation that is transparent about it and that talks about it, because the word of God, remember, it talks about us overcoming by the word of our testimony. I used to teach people that when we release that word in the atmosphere, God shows us an echo in it, because other people begin to grab hold of what was just released, and then they begin to get their healing, and then somebody else gets that word and they get
Mhm.
their healing. It becomes a ripple effect. And so we have to not suppress people when they go through things or they have a story to tell, and we have have to also be careful how we treat people. We look at what they're doing and their brands and all their glitz and glamour. But let me tell you, there's a real person behind all of that. And so we have to be careful how we treat people, how we talk to people. You don't know what they're going through. And God can use us mightier when we become humble in our walk in with God and in what He's doing. So
Mhm.
with this, Jacqui, you've got a podcast, Mission for Mental Health. Share with us
Absolutely.
about that. We want to make sure we know, and we want to
Absolutely.
make sure we know about this nonprofit as well.
So, Mission for Mental Health, how that started was I did a Facebook Live after my incident with my daughter. About 10 days later, not even 10 days, I did a Facebook Live and I was extremely transparent. I told the whole story. And out of
Mm-hmm.
that story, people started to call me and tell me their stories. Like it just kept it, my phone would not, Sherida, when I tell you my phone was blowing up, blowing
Mm-hmm.
up, blowing up.
Woo.
People were calling me, telling me about my mother had bipolar and we didn't know what it was. I'm raising my sister's kids because she has schizophrenia. My son is in prison right now because he's a sociopath and we never could get
Mm.
him diagnosed. So people were telling me all these stories. So I was like, God, what are you trying to do with this? Because yes, I wanted to start a YouTube channel because guess what, y'all? I am funny and I'm lively and I like to cut up, but I want to be
Yeah.
like Wendy Williams when I start my show because I want to be
Right.
messy,
I was
you
gonna bring
know,
that up.
because messy gets views. And God would never let me start that channel. I've been saying that since January. I wanted to do it. God would never let me start it. And I would have these dreams. You're going to talk about mental health. And I used to say, no, I'm not. No, I'm not because it's heavy. I don't want to do that. I don't want to talk about that. It's not going to be me. I don't want to do that. But the dreams kept happening. And so when I did that Facebook and I started getting them phone calls, I was like, God, what do you want me to do with this? And he said, I want you to start that YouTube channel. The YouTube channel turned into a podcast. The podcast is basically, it's very simple.
Yeah.
People like me that want to have, I say, the girl who helped me start my podcast, her name is Ursula. Black Girls Getting Their
Yeah.
Shift Together. She has a
Yes.
podcast. She helped me set up my podcast. She had said, like, girl, you need to, when are you gonna start? Because as long as you keep holding on to your story, you're robbing people from their healing. Healing's in the conversations.
Bam.
Was like healing is in the conversations. And I fell in love with that. I fell in
Yeah.
love with that. And so I wanted people to experience healing. I feel the more I talk about, the more I'm transparent, the more I share,
Yeah.
the more
Yeah.
people get to see this girl with 25 years of law enforcement
Yeah.
experience, this
Yeah.
girl with 5 kids, this girl with bright red hair, this girl with selling Mary Kay, this girl
Yeah.
with all her little businesses and things like that, who looks like she got it together all the time.
Come on.
On the outside, she looks
Come
like
on.
she got it together. This girl's
Come on.
going through some things.
Come on.
Going through some things. So I found that the more I shared it, the more people were receptive to it. And I wanted people to have the same experience. So that's what we do on my podcast. I let people come on and I let them share whatever there is pertaining to share to help you heal. And you feel what you share, someone else, because I promise you, Sherida, I'm not the only one who's going through this. I'm not the only one who got
Right.
a 24-year-old
No.
daughter with mental illness. I'm not
Mm.
the only one who got a daughter who was smart, had all these dreams and aspirations. I thought I was going to raise my kids. They was going to go off to college and I was going to have my house to myself. I wasn't
Yeah.
planning on,
Dealing with
you know, working in a prosecution because I don't work at PD anymore, working in a
okay.
prosecution office and turn around and have a defendant in my family. That wasn't
Yeah.
part of my plan, but I bet you there's somebody else that's out there just like me, just like me. And so I created this podcast to allow people to let people see there are people just like you in this
Right.
world. And guess what? We all can heal together.
Mm.
It's going to move into the nonprofit. The nonprofit, what I want to do is open them facilities that they
Yes.
closed in 96. So the
Yes. Come on.
nonprofit is also mission for mental health. And our
Yeah.
mission is to open up facilities to allow people come in to receive the treatment that my daughter was robbed of. My daughter
Mm.
should not be in this situation. Doctors kept saying she needs long-term care. Okay, well, where's the long-term
Where
care?
is it?
Where am I going to get it from? I can't
Right.
afford these $35,000 for 6 weeks facilities. Other
Wow.
space places don't have beds available. The only place you're going to send my daughter is Georgia Regional. You telling me that's the best we got in this state is Georgia Regional, where you send
Hmm.
the worst of the worst? So
Right.
I want to open those facilities that where the people who need long-term care, they're able
Yeah.
to receive it. I want it funded through grants where we have
Yeah.
enough doctors. And I've already spoke. God has already given it to me. He's already
Yeah.
brought people to me to tell me it's going to happen. I just got to
Yeah.
do the work.
Right.
We're also changing laws. We have a petition going called India's Law. All you got to do is Google it, India's Law. And we
Yeah.
want to change legislation to where
Yeah.
doctors are in a position where they are able to allow people to receive long-term care, or mandate the same way you mandate people for this 72-hour hold, and you see they are not ready to get released back into to their family or to the streets, that you
Yep.
know they need long-term care and you know that there's somewhere for them to go. I want doctors to be able to do that without having to go through all these courts and things like
Yeah.
that. Because that's why they don't do it. They don't do it
Yeah.
because they got to go to court and get it approved from a judge to keep a person longer, even though you know this person needs more care than what they're receiving. So that
Mm.
is what we are. That's what our mission is. So, Mission for Mental Health podcast, Mission for Mental Health nonprofit, and I'm on Instagram, Mission for Mental Health. like you, just like you, Sherida. I keep it simple. Mission for mental.
Right. I'm like, just the name.
Mission for
That's it.
mental health. Don't make it difficult.
Right. Right. That is awesome. And I applaud you and I thank God for you and what you're doing. And it's amazing. And family, it's funny. I want you to know that Jacqui has always been Mama Bear. Even before she had kids, she's been Mama Bear. She still is. The girl can cook. I think I remember tacos.
That's
She
my
can cook.
favorite.
That's all I'm gonna say. Tacos. So again, as I shared earlier in the broadcast, this has been my sister for years back in
Yeah,
California, San Jose State University, and just it's amazing
absolutely.
how we both are here in Atlanta, Georgia. So I am so godly proud of you. I thank God for what you're doing, family. We have to make sure that we put Jacqui. Thank you, Mom, for putting her on the prayer list at the
Thank you,
church.
Mama Lovelace.
And we pray the rest of y'all, if you guys have other lists, please do it as well, because I want to make sure that Jacqui remains undergirded and supported during this time. I'm sure
Mhm.
those of you that are mothers, or if you're a father, if you know of other mothers or fathers that are handling or dealing with different situations with their children in relation to what you've heard tonight from Jacqui, that the support is needed from all of us. You don't have to know people or all the specifics. Just lift them up, that God gives them strength to endure this journey, and that they can keep doing what they have to do. And Jacqui, I just believe that the law is going to be come into existence. I believe that it's going to change things. I even believe that you can be in a position where you will be game changing in the political arena here in the state of Georgia. And so
Thank
I
you.
say that because I want you to not give up. Don't grow weary in well doing, for in due season you shall reap if you faint not. I believe that God is on your side. I believe that your best is yet to come. And I believe that you haven't seen anything yet of what God is doing in your life through the fact that your daughter had to go through this. Yet you remain faithful, you listened, and you continue to make sure that everybody stays okay, including yourself, including strangers, through your podcast, so that we can all receive and benefit from you and the
Yes.
healing that's within you that comes back into us. So we thank you for that. Listen, how can they, when it comes to mental health, we're about to wind down the show at this point. How can they how can they catch the show, and do you have resources that they can receive, or just a hotline when they come to the show, or to your Facebook page or Instagram or anything?
Yeah. So in the Instagram is Mission for Mental Health. The YouTube channel is Mission for Mental Health. I go live Wednesday nights at 8 p.m.
Okay.
And it's always there. So if you miss it live, you can always watch it again.
Okay.
There are a lot of great resources out there. I ended up going through a company called Open Path, and I
Okay.
found a great therapist at a reasonable rate on
Wow.
Open Path. There are
Wow.
also services like NAMI, um,
Mm.
National Association for Mental Health. They have tons of resources on their website. So you can also go on there. You can also call the crisis hotline. You just got to Google it, and call the crisis hotline. They have, especially when you are experiencing a right away crisis, they have
Right.
people there to talk to immediately. So yeah, so there are options out there. I'm still looking for them all and looking for what's best. I can just tell you what I've used in the
No,
past, and
that's
right
good.
now I'm using Open Path for my therapy. Always find you a faith-based church, because let me tell you something: when them prayer warriors get a hold to you,
Yes. Yes, don't we
I'm
know?
telling you, when them prayer
Mhm.
warriors get a hold to you, and I know so many people are praying for my daughter and my family.
Yeah,
Every People come to me in as strangers
yeah,
and say stuff to me,
right.
and I'm just like, what in what?
Yeah,
You don't even know me. So
yeah,
I already know it's nothing but God. It's nothing but God sending
that's right.
people, giving me confirmation. So, like you say, I don't get weary because this is
Yeah,
heavy and it is tiring. And
yeah,
trust and believe, I have cried until I can't cry no more. So,
yeah,
it is heavy. So I
yeah,
always tell people, find you a faith-based church that you like.
yes,
Um, and sometimes as friends, when you haven't talked to a friend in a long time,
yeah,
just call them. Don't
yeah,
text. Just
yeah,
call, because
yeah.
you never know
Never know. Mm-mm.
when God sends these people like, "Hey, I was just dreaming
Yeah,
about you." Just
yep,
call them and see what Just,
yes,
"Hey, I was just checking on you, girl. What's going on? You straight? What's
that's
going
right.
on with you?" Because you never know, that word right there may change
Yeah,
that thought that they had, that negative thought that enemy's eating them up. You know,
yes.
you never know. So those are
Mm.
the things that I do.
Yeah, I love it. And thank you for all that, family. Those are nuggets that we want you to all be able to grab hold of,
Mhm.
and impart them into your lives as we move forward. Listen, we're about to wrap up the show at this point. Jacqui, you've been amazing
Thank
tonight.
you.
Truly a triumphant story, because we know God's still going to get the victory out of all this. So victory has already
Absolutely.
begun. We're just walking in it, and we're just waiting to see it manifest in the natural. But I want, family, you to know, if you know of someone that is dealing with this, a parent, a child, an adult, whatever, if you just want to be in the know and connect and support whatever, our guest tonight, Jacqui Robinson, you can definitely follow, and support her broadcast, Mission for Mental Health. Follow her on social media. And definitely, if anything, if all else, is not possible, make sure that you keep her and the family in prayer, and continue to pray for India. And we look forward to hearing a praise report, Jacqui. So I just want you to be able to come back at some point in the future,
Absolutely.
and just share how God has been moving in this situation,
Absolutely.
and just how He's been just helping you and the family, and even India, and definitely when it comes to the law, and the nonprofit. We just want to hear the updates on that. So definitely
You
be
can get it.
prepared to come back. Yes. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you for having me.
everything. And we're so happy of what you shared with us tonight. Y'all, I think we have a lot to chew on tonight, right? Chat ministry. So just to think about. So, family, listen, don't forget, if you want to be a guest on the show, make sure you send us an email at Sherida Lovelace Ministries, at gmail.com, to be a guest. This is the place where victory repeats itself. Listen, I pray that God just continues to strengthen everyone that has listened to the show tonight. I pray that you've received something that you can take and learn or be sharpened of, or just to know that God is on your side as well, no matter what you're going through. It just takes you being able and faithful to somebody you're close to. I call them accountability partners, or someone
Mm.
you're accountable to be able to call them up, or text them and say, hey, I'm having an issue, or hey, are you okay? One or the other, just like that inkling I got, several weeks back. I'm like, Jacqui's in my spirit. You
That was
okay, girl?
crazy when that
And
happened.
the whole way that this came.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad I did, because I'm glad I know the story, and I'm glad that behind the scenes, I'm your cheerleader, rooting you on,
Thank you so
pushing and
much.
praying, just to see what God's going to do. So, family, listen, we love you. We thank you for joining the Triumphant Show on tonight, the place where victory repeats itself. We'll see you next week with another amazing guest. We'll see you also with a co-host, and we're just excited with what God's about to do on the next couple of shows. So make sure you join us here. If anybody wants to catch the show again, you can see it, the replay here on Facebook, social media, on not Instagram, but YouTube at S Lovelace TV. And also thanks to the nations that pass the show around, in your region. So God bless you all. I think I'm still a little bit misty, tongue-tied, and everything, and trying to hold back
I
what we
feel
heard
you.
tonight. So y'all forgive me, but I'm just excited for what God's doing. But also, my heart is really moved on tonight. So, all right, y'all, that's it for the show. That is a wrap. Y'all have a great night's sleep. Jacqui, we love you. We
Thank you,
appreciate
thank you,
you.
thank you,
We
thank
will
you.
see you all next week. God bless everybody, and good night. Pulling it off. Hold on.